And then we can get going. I can put the agenda up on the screen.
Sure, that'd be great. All right, thanks for joining. So we're gonna start our meeting. We do have, as the first item, an administrative task, which is Brandon, how do you say your last name? Estenes's application to join Complete Streets.
Yeah, you hadn't said what group you were yet.
Oh, sorry, Complete Streets Advisory Council. And we have an application and we have the individual here who's joined the meeting. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us, you more or less did before we started streaming, but just a little bit of your background and why you're interested in joining us.
Sure. My name is Brandon Estenes. I have lived here in Kingston. I've lived here in Kingston for 2 years. I just finished the graduate program in economics at the Lee Economics Institute at Bard College. I get most places, most days in Kingston by walking or biking. I'm hoping to find, and right now I'm unemployed and looking for professional opportunities to apply myself to urban policy, transportation, and helping shape how urban space is structured and how people get around. And just really passionate about that generally, and so that's why I'm here in a non-professional capacity, and I'm hoping to be able to help Kingston become, a safer, more accessible place for people to get around by all modes of transportation.
All right, that sounds terrific. Thank you. I think that explains a lot of the reasons why all of us are here on this council as well. So I appreciate that. And have you submitted your application formally?
Yes, I've received it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So Emily will turn that around to us and
Sure. I think I printed one copy out.
okay, well, we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Offline, and,
Do you want, now that a few more people are joined, do you want to do a round of introductions?
Sure. Claudia, would you like to start?
Claudia Ford, I'm a member of the Complete Streets Advisory Council. I'm a self-certified pedestrian advocate.
I love that you're using that phrase.
I actually thought of that when I was like, well, I guess I just self-certified myself. I have impaired vision. I was also a past chairman for the Resource Center for Accessible Living, RCAL. So I've been involved with independent living for quite a while.
So my name is Paul Stangus. I'm the chair of Complete Streets for a couple months. I lived in Kingston for about 3 years. I'm also sort of, I'm not coming at this from a professional background, unlike a lot of people when I joined the commission or the council. But I am interested in just making, similar to you, just Kingston streets, just safe and useful for everybody, all types of users, and all modes of transportation. Yeah, that's it for me. John, would you like to?
I'm John Schulteis. I'm a city engineer, so I'm city staff. I'm not a member of this council, but I guess I'm here to give some project updates as well as just get feedback on some design projects we have. And I brought cookies.
Did you make these?
Jenny did.
Jenny
They
did.
Yeah, they're peanut butter, so I don't know if that'll cause anybody
I'm not gonna.
pain or pleasure.
That's much appreciated. Way to win some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wait a minute, parts of Congress, John.
Gee, if we're oatmeal raisin, you really have me.
Okay, next time.
I can pass on the peanut butter.
As most of you know, I'm Emily Flynn. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness for the City of Kingston. I use she, her pronouns. I do a lot of other work in addition to this. If you're ever interested, I coordinate the Live Well Kingston Health Commission. So if you're, with which there's a subcommittee called Travel Well, so that's how some of this works. So if you're ever interested in that, happy to talk about that at any time. And I'll pass to the folks on the screen. I don't know if Gus, Ella, or Elizabeth, if any of you are available to introduce yourselves.
I'll go first if, I guess hi, my name's Elizabeth and I live on Franklin Street, and I got involved in this committee because I had bought a house right before the whole Franklin Complete Street project started, and got involved in having the public's perspective be brought to the project. And I met John and have worked with him on that. And then was suggested that I join, and I did, and it's been great. I've enjoyed being a citizen and hearing all of the experts like Claudette and John and others, and learning a lot and presenting a different viewpoint.
Hello, I'm Ella Condra, and I'm a member of this Complete Streets Council, and I'm also involved in a couple other groups, including Safe Pass Ulster and Riders of Ulster Transit Alliance. And yeah, that's it. Sorry to miss the cookies. All right, thank you.
I can go next. I share some of your comments. Like I joined the council a few years ago, and yeah, here just to try to make Kingston a more walkable and bikeable city. And I'll send John my address so he can share some cookies with me too.
I'll hold it up to the camera. Have the smell.
Give you a little intro.
What kind of cookies are they? Chocolate, peanut butter, what?
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I live over on Summer Street by the YMCA, and I'm with the Streets Advisory Committee, and I'm fighting for more accessibility, and especially for disabled people.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. So we'll just jump right into the old business. So the first item we were going to discuss was the sidewalk task force. Last thing we had heard after our presentation to the Common Council was that they were just going to move forward with a funding request. As I had mentioned to Emily just before we started streaming, I had emailed Bob Dennison just to see if he had any update on his end. I have not heard back, but then Emily said she probably knows more about what might be happening with that than he would.
Egotistical of me.
Yeah.
There isn't really much of an update other than I believe that the mayor included funding to do the sidewalk improvement plan in the 2025 budget. No other movement has been made on it yet.
Okay.
We also applied for a grant for it, and we have not heard back yet.
Okay. Has the budget been approved?
No.
Okay.
So the mayor's recommended budget has been posted and is up for anyone to consider. I believe that in this month, all of the different departments go before the Common Council to answer any questions about their budgets individually. So City Hall is going next Tuesday. You're going too, John, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So John and I will be presenting our department's budgets next Tuesday to the Common Council.
Okay.
Then there's a whole process of where they approve the budget. And then it finally gets approved, usually around December.
Okay. All right, that sounds good then. All right, so the grant application update.
So
Anything changed since last time?
yes, actually. And in the agenda that I posted to the city's website, I did not include a link to this. But it's in, we have Google Documents that we have started to use our agendas for. And we can give you, if you join the council, we'll give you access to it. If you go into the Google document, and the links are there for you also, if you want to click on this. And I have printouts for those of you who are in the room with me here. So.
It's generally how we'll draft documents
Okay.
and then we'll send around links for feedback and people can make comments on them sort of communally, before they're approved, so apparently how we get stuff.
So this is a report that I asked our grants department to make every month. And I'm really excited. Just yesterday, we found out we were awarded a NYSERDA Clean Mobility Planning Project. This is a project that I'll be the project manager for. This is what I've been calling a micro mobility planning project. It would be we would, at the end of it, create a planning document for a shared e-bike or bicycle system. So it wouldn't be the creation of it, it would just be the planning document. And what's lovely is NYSERDA is providing the list of subcontractors for us. We might not have to go through a full RFP process for it. So I believe, I don't know how much, I don't know the timeline yet, but we have a webinar tomorrow to find out what our first steps are. I'm very excited about this
So
project.
it would be, they would provide the required contractors to use, or?
Yeah, so for example, when I did the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, we received funding from the state DEC. They said, here's a bucket of money, make a plan. We had to put out a call for a contractor and go through this very lengthy process. What's lovely about what NYSERDA is doing is they already have a list of pre-qualified subcontractors.
So it saves time and
Yes.
effort and all that.
And tell me what to do.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, great.
So in 2025, I'll be working on this, and I'm sure I'll be making updates to this committee about it.
Great.
So that's my biggest update. Let's see, John, there's a new award for safe and accessible Flatbush.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't just go in order with these. I mean,
Yeah.
they may not care too much about the charging stations, but
Yeah.
I guess there is some movement on the pedestrian crossing from Greenkill over to the YMCA. Well, we heard a little bit about that yesterday.
Wait, that's not safe and accessible Flatbush. You're going down? You're jumping down?
He's going
I
through.
was just going in this order here.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess there's some movement on that pedestrian crossing bridge over the railroad tracks.
Oh,
What
We heard yesterday
What I
that it's
heard
in design.
was that the subcontractor was reaching out to CSI.
Yes, yeah,
And that's over near the Y, like that crossing.
yeah, from near, well, on Greenkill, kind of near Iwo Jima,
Yeah.
crossing over.
I remember we talked about that ages ago, and Brian Slack mentioned that every time they fix
Yes.
that hurricane fencing or
Right.
whatever you call it, it just gets cut again.
I think Julie's comment was if this pedestrian overpass does get built, there's going to be, what did she call
4 to
it?
5.
Fort Knox
Yeah.
walls. We're gonna build the wall
Yes,
so that you have to use the stairs.
yes. So interesting, we'll see if that goes
Fingers
forward.
crossed.
Yeah, but yeah, so just going in order here, so the Rays weaving the waterfront project, that's a big one. That's $27 million package of projects in the downtown area.
Nothing updates, no updates there.
Nothing yet. We're working with the Federal Highway Administration to get our agreement signed, hopefully before January 20th. We're under pressure to see that happen. So we started so long ago that we really should get that.
Get it?
Let's hope.
Yep. Flatbush and Foxhall, I know maybe we're gonna talk about that at some point today, but aside from those comments, yeah, big deal. We got an additional $4.3 million roughly added, because we were able to include some green infrastructure. So that helps close the funding gap. So this project was originally envisioned as about a $5 million project about 5-6 years
I
ago.
was gonna say, it's been.
So now it's now 10 or $1 million project. So this helps close that funding gap. Wayfinding implementation is we opened bids last week for, I should know the number of signs, roughly 20 wayfinding signs around the city. And we're in the process of awarding that, so that was a successful bid. So yeah, that'll be construction early in next year, we'll likely see that. West Pierpont Street, this came up yesterday as well, it's something that's kind of languished. We've
Is that
The closed,
that's
really
right
steep.
there, literally?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
It's the cobblestone
Yeah.
street.
One of the
Yeah.
two cobblestone streets left in Kingston, right?
Correct, yeah, there's two, but, so it's currently effectively a closed street. And last we heard from the residents, they kind of like it that way. They didn't really want us to, reopen that street, so.
But if anything, it does feel like it's almost starting to collapse on itself. If you actually walk down it, it's definitely starting to get some interesting curvatures. and-
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that through subsidence?
It's West Pierpont goes across Wertz to Broadway. It's next to the Catholic Charities building.
Yeah,
It's currently, it's dead ends on the side of Catholic Charities.
Oh,
So where's the other cobblestone?
I thought it was near,
Wine Coop's off of Foxhall.
Yes.
Really steep. They're both really steep. That's one of the reason they've been left
Yes,
on.
I've been on that street, you're right, it is, but there is some subsidence in it, I mean, you can feel that it's,
Yeah.
yes.
I was thinking of the other cobblestone street. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, the only
West
reason I know
Pierpont
is because I live
off
in two
Lower
roads.
Broadway.
But yeah, so what's
Anyway,
the
that's-
thinking with the rehabilitation there? Like what is it initially to open it back up or?
It was to reopen it, try to preserve, I think this goes back to the Kevin Cahill days, you got an earmark.
Is this historic?
Yes,
Okay.
historic street surface,
Oh my.
yeah. Well, we've struggled to know what to do there because the grant amount is very small, it's like $165,000.
Which will do.
Has there ever been any thoughts to just make it like a pocket park or something like that?
There has been, yeah, that may end up being, the best use of it is to wind a sidewalk up there somehow and do some planters.
Yeah, I mean, between,
Yeah.
you have Catholic Charities right there. It's
Yeah.
basically like a mix of all sorts of things, after school programs and, basketball programs. So you have kids around, it could be useful to have that kind of space.
Are there a lot of utilities under it in that area?
There is water and sewer, probably gas under it. I don't know about the gas for sure, but
I
yeah.
know there's definitely some animals, critters that live under there. You just see them run into the holes. So.
Yeah, it's a tough little project to know what to do there.
Hmm.
I don't know if we need to go through
Yeah, completed.
all of
ones,
it.
Yeah.
unless there's any specific ones.
No, I mean, I guess unless there's any new ones or pending ones that are worth sort of noting.
The red is the updates.
Okay.
So that's why I was just starting to
Right,
read just
right.
the red list.
So the red completed ones are ones that have been recently moved into the completed one? Okay.
That's the one we get.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess Clinton Ave, how far along is
Right,
that?
yeah, so under construction, we have Clinton Avenue, paving happened last week. There are temporary pavement markings, we'll be getting the finished markings starting, next week, like a week from today. And the traffic signals, 2 new traffic signals, the work's gonna be ongoing, we think they're gonna be active in mid to late.
I think we had had some emails about that. I think people were generally, positive in terms of feedback, especially with the bump outs, I think, because I don't think people had realized there were going to be actual bump outs, because it's something that we always talk about, and oftentimes you just see the painting.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of heat for that bump out, so
Well, here you can get some,
I hope it works.
we'll give you positive feedback,
Yeah.
I think, for the most part for those.
Well, let's wait till they start planting.
Ready for next?
Yeah.
We technically can't close the door
Oh,
until.
right.
So. I mean, we're not technically public, we're not the common council.
I
so-
think they'll probably move.
Can't lock it.
Common council says they can't close the door from there. Can we be?
Oh.
Up to you.
It's fine.
Let's do short pass.
Can I draw attention to the
Sure.
very last one?
Yeah.
So, the mayor did mention this at a internal meeting we had yesterday, that CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Funds, will be used in 2025 for sidewalks at Academy Green Park.
The whole thing?
That's, I don't know the scope of it,
Okay.
but I think so.
That's the
That's
intent,
great.
yeah.
So that's good news, some new sidewalks.
And possibly curbs on, I think it's Megan Lane, as well, Clinton Avenue, where the curb reveal is very low, probably be doing new curbs.
Cool. That's great.
I'm sorry, did I miss, is that document available online or not?
Are you talking about my grant update document?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's in the Complete Streets agenda, the Google
there's no
document.
link. The one for today, I don't see a link to it.
Right, the one that I put on the city's website, it's not there, but if you go to the Complete Streets
Or Google
folder, Google agenda.
Oh, got it. Okay, I'll look there. Never mind, thanks.
All right, awesome. All right, so then, the next item was the school zone program. I'm not sure if there's anything actually, further to update on that. Ellen, did you have anything?
I don't know anything.
Oh, no,
Do you
sorry.
guys know about the legislation that was signed?
For the speed cameras? School Yes,
zone speed cameras, yeah.
we do know that.
Yeah, so there's a tie-in, I guess, I think what you guys are looking for is more consistency in the school zone signage.
Well, yeah, that
Yeah.
was definitely our
Yeah.
initial ask.
Yeah.
I've noticed near, speaking about where I live again, the Catholic school right there, they've started putting, school speed zone or speed limit signage up, which is new. And I often wondered whether or not, when we were talking about school zones in the city, if it was gonna just be public schools or if it was also gonna be private religious schools, and apparently it is going to be religious schools. So that's good news. Ella, did you have anything you wanted to bring up around the school zones? She's still on.
Hi, I'm sorry. I couldn't really hear that well, so I'm not sure what I couldn't really hear what you were saying, but I guess this was just regarding I think it originally came up because of the YMCA school zone.
Right.
So I don't know if there's any updates on that.
It's been challenging, I think, in my mind, because we want to enact school zones in places and times that make sense. And so I did, to enact a school zone for, say, what's 7 a.m. to 4, picking out. I think a lot of ours are currently 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. To enact that on, say, Pine Grove Avenue, when for 90% of the time that you are on Pine Grove Avenue, say Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., you're not going to see kids. I think that's the challenge that I face. And to post it at 15 miles an hour, we know the compliance is not going to be very good there. That's the challenge that I face, is not overusing and abusing the signage.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I mean, just for some background, what happened is that, so Christine Tarasco was killed there approximately 2 years ago as a bike rider, and she was not a child, but she was coming from the YMCA. And, at the time, there was a meeting that I was not part of. I think John Grospelin went to it, and with the mayor and some other people and people from the YMCA talking about how they would respond and what they would do. And so at the time, the mayor said, okay, well, our response to this is that we're going to create a school zone. And they didn't talk about, I suggested that we actually put in some kind of physical tactical urbanism or whatever, like vertical or horizontal deflection of some sort. And that didn't seem to be considered. So this was kind of what was offered. And then now it seems like that's not, I mean, yeah, I think you have a good point, is that I don't think people would necessarily respond to the sign either. But I guess what I'm saying is that, so basically what we were told was going to happen is not probably going to happen. So what can happen there? Because I think that's, something should happen there to make it safer, I think. I mean, and I know we might not see kids there that much, although I also think that if streets are safer, we might potentially see more kids out. I don't know. So, I mean, that would be a big change to the system. But anyway, that's just where I'm coming from on that.
When I sit there, when I'm doing the bike ped count, the number of children you see is more than I would think you'd see most other intersections,
It's the school that's out. It's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, there's a huge burst.
I mean, this was also, last night it was on Saturday. It's
Right,
just, I
so-
mean, it's like a pretty good flow of children, just, over those 2 hours. I mean, it's about there. Could there just be signage not about speed limits, but just about like, watch for children or just something like that to kind of make people think?
Well, so there is specific guidance around the watch for children signs in New York, which again goes towards not overusing them and really there is a place for them. I would say when you're in a rural area and maybe come upon a hamlet,
Right.
like that kind of makes sense. Like I've been traveling at 50 miles an hour through woods and farms, and now here's a hamlet. Okay, children. But in my view, those were posted in past years, but it's in most of Kingston, you should be, there can be kids present at any time. It's a city. So I personally think that it tends to add to the sign clutter. But I think what Ella was getting at with the traffic calming devices, there could be a place for that. There are places for that. We recently added a speed table on East Chester. Doing other things in our projects of narrowing lanes and things like that. I think that is maybe part of the issue there on Pine Grove is the lane widths are very wide right there. You have that strange parking in the center of the street geometry that just makes everything really wide there.
The city did just install 2 new trees on Pine Grove. We did just hear that too. So trees contribute to traffic calming. It's something.
On Pine Grove.
And new benches were installed, but I don't think that contributes to traffic calming, but it's nice.
Yeah, no,
Benches
it's,
installed.
well, also, yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. I've also noticed how sometimes the grasses in that median can also get very high, then I
Yes.
feel like that sort of obstructs views, so.
Yeah, we've had those were done by Adopt a Median kind of program. Yeah, that has happened there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look into speed tables on the approaches. I don't think we would want it too close to the signal. It would be further back. It might even be, south of the YMCA entrance there.
Not to drag this out too much, but I know curb cuts are dangerous for the pedestrians and cyclists. In the middle of Pine Grove, there's multiple, are those considered curb cuts? What would those, it's like median cuts?
Oh,
does that add to some of the danger too? You know, I sort of see people like crossing over to go to the Rite Aid or whatever that is, and then people do you know what I mean? It feels like it adds some chaos to that and if maybe long-term they were, and I think we put in bollards, because I think the trucks were driving.
or boulders.
Yeah.
They placed some boulders, yeah.
I'm just wondering if long-term, if cutting down on entryways would make it safer? I think
Yeah,
people
it's-
coming out of the water would be upset.
Well, it's strangely, it's divided road.
Yeah.
So people have to make U-turns to get to
Yeah.
their driveways.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated stretch of road, I think that's kind of where all this stems from.
I think if you can hold on to a speed table consideration, that would be huge. That'd be awesome.
Take a look.
Thank you, John.
You got it.
All right, the next item, I guess this is for you and me mostly, I think, because we were the only ones who ever met for this, but, are you game for, trying to regroup with this tactical urbanism subcommittee? Do you have time?
Yeah, this was before, I think I had this idea before I realized that it was actually going into the budget, and I don't know. Do we know what is happening with that, with the tactical urbanism in the budget now?
I'm not sure you'll see a line item that says that.
Especially not the term tactical urbanism.
Right. But I think what you're describing here are like quick implementation projects by the city. Is that right?
If we came up with a list of ideas or
Yeah.
potential intersections or, kind of hot spots or trouble spots.
Yeah.
We could pass those on to you to
Yes.
be considered for these.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, then that sounds like a reason to kind of get the band back together.
So the mayor has said, okay, whenever we're paving streets, which I don't get advance notice of, I could not tell you which streets will be paved next year. I do not know. It's a state secret.
Engineer, they don't.
I know.
That's crazy.
You get 12 hours.
I mean, the one I can tell you, is Prospect Street, but I don't know. I mean, maybe you want to look at Prospect Street, but, it's a low speed, narrow street already. I just know that because we're doing a big sewer project there.
Yeah, there's currently, I think, around the corner from it, they're digging up that whole little street, right? Is that
Between
Furnace Street that's all dug up now?
That's not me. That might be, I don't know who would be doing that, but I'm doing Prospect between St. James and Liberty, and then next year I'll be doing between, if you want to see some traffic calming, go try to get through there right now. It's rough. And then next year I'll be doing,
Wait, what are you doing between St. James and Liberty?
sewer,
Sewer.
which, will result in the road getting repaved.
So if there was some affordable,
Yeah, I mean, that's a long stretch, so I don't know what the traffic's like currently. Do people tend to speed down that?
It's a low volume
Okay.
street. I don't get complaints there.
sometimes people cut through the restorative
Yeah.
justice center there.
Yeah.
And then People's Place, usually it's craziest when People's Place is doing their distribution.
Yeah. But Prospect is one of the roughest streets by surface condition in the city.
Sled bikes.
Because of its
nature
failing
slows
sewer
down.
traffic, so.
I haven't heard that recently.
Yeah.
Confirm.
But we'll be doing Prospect from Cedar to Green Kiln next year.
And if you think about like a cycling network, Prospect is a major connector from Henry over to sort of St. James and Uptown. I often will exit off of Broadway and go that way.
Yeah, same. I always take Clinton though, because Clinton's really smooth right now.
Yes,
Maybe
Clinton
they'll
is
change
the
it
road.
to Prospect. It's paved.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, that's great.
So I think what I heard John, just because I think it's really great, what I heard John say was if you guys gave some suggestions, he'd be open to hearing it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I have my limitations. I mean, I know where I think the hotspots are in the city, but I'm not here all the time. Like, I'm not here at night a lot, so.
All right, no, that's great. Yeah, Ellen and I had already started coming up with some when we first met. We only met 2 or 3 times. But yeah, that's terrific. All right, so then I guess we'll move on to your response to the letter that we came up with, which we have copies here, also shared by email.
Yeah.
To you.
That one in there already,
Okay.
just on the bottom. That's the grants. No. I don't know if I read through it.
No, thanks first off for just taking the time to give us this response. Appreciate that, for sure. All right, so the first concern was that the speed limit baked into the design was now, 10 miles per hour faster than the city speed limit.
Yeah. So there was a speed study done in 2023 and the 85th percentile does correspond to 35 miles an hour. That being said, I'm trying to think what features on this street could be changed.
So that's just, there's a speed study done just gauging the speed of cars going down the street, and this is what.
Yeah.
But that was before the
Right.
speed limit was lowered to 25 miles an hour
Yeah.
now. So I mean, people break the speed limit constantly, but they'll still be posted 25 mile an hour.
It will, yes.
Right, so it's just not designed necessarily.
Right,
to
which-
force 25 miles.
Yeah, I mean, in a horizontal and vertical alignment point of view, like it's match existing. From a typical section view, yes, we're making some changes. There's gonna be, width reductions and things, but like a lot of times with design speed, you're concerned with horizontal curvature, like how sharp can it be? And obviously, a neighborhood street can be sharper than a curve on a throughway, right? Because your design speed. There aren't a lot of, I mean, we're talking about 2 linear roads. There's not curvature in play here that I could adjust, even if we could select a lower design speed.
Yeah, I don't know, when I first read this, I think I was confused just because of the idea of it being 35 miles an hour, but as long as it's posted 25 miles an hour, I think, the expectation is people will observe the speed limit.
Yeah, we're absolutely, I think, targeting that. So there are on Foxhall, I want to say 3 speed tables in the design currently.
And a speed table reminder is raised.
Yep, yeah.
Like coming off of roundabout.
Yeah, what we find with this, the speed tables tend to slow people to that 20 to 25 range.
That's
Cool.
Yeah.
I love their speed tables, that's awesome.
I mean, I feel like, that's as good as you get in Kingston. Speed bumps, I learned, not really often, but speed tables, yeah.
And the emergency vehicles are comfortable.
Yeah, I've had, we have them now on Delaware Ave, now on East Chester, Joy's Lane's had some, East St. James has them, roundabout approaches.
Okay.
Haven't had problems with either emergency or
fire.
or plows,
Okay.
Great.
Cool.
That's really good to know.
Yeah. Speed bumps in mind, so if the tables.
Yeah,
are-
we can't.
If the tables are working, they continue.
There's not a lot that NISOT's gonna show up and criticize, but if we did speed bumps, I think they would.
Yeah, question?
Yeah, so the 85th percentile operating speed, that's a measurement based on measurements of how fast people go on that road,
Correct.
which is based on how that road was designed prior to that.
Yeah,
And so now the design is mandated to match the design previous, like people have to be able to go just as fast as they were able to,
Well,
because that's how it was designed. There's a circularity.
You have to obey the posted speed limit regardless of how the road was designed. So.
Yeah, but people don't.
if the 85, if instead of 35, we went out there and said, oh, everybody's only driving 25, because, well, we probably wouldn't be doing the project. That's part of our goal with the project is to influence through the roadway design, lower operating speeds.
And it seems like there are some variables that are on the table and some which are not so much.
Right.
And the road width maybe is one that.
Yeah,
So that's the
there's,
next-
discussion about that, yeah.
There's
yeah.
discussion.
But you can't go back and redesign a road that's already been designed. I mean, you can't post the speed limit.
Well, except not right now.
Yeah, we have, let's pretend we have a blank canvas.
Yeah,
We kind of do.
Okay.
do you want to go into the second item? I feel like it was, yeah, the lane width.
I'm looking at the second.
Yeah, concern two, the 11 feet
Page.
wide lanes.
I don't think that I was directly.
Okay.
You might want to ask Ellen on that one specifically. My thing was mostly on number 4.
Okay.
I had specific things about.
Ella, did you want to discuss concern number 2 as it's phrased in John's response? The 11-foot lanes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have, I'm on my phone, so I don't have it right in front of me. That's the 11-foot lanes? Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a concern. It's just, I mean, it's tied in with what we were just saying, is that I think the lanes are too, I think they're probably seem to be too, more wide than they need to be. And, so, and I think that would encourage people to speed more. So, yeah, that was my concern. Is that what you were asking for?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me break, I gotta take that up actually. Okay.
We're just pulling something up, Ella, from Engage Kingston. I think, yep,
Is it the actual visual plan of the road?
yeah, it looks like that's the.
Yeah, I was thinking that would be useful.
Right, so I think the response had to do with one thing for sections A and C are really that currently have.
Do you want just A?
Yeah, so A has a 22-foot curb to curb, and my response was that we really cannot change that 22 feet. I mean, we could probably put a white stripe at a foot off the curb. But when we're talking about these paint-only type solutions, it's not, I don't think it's going to achieve what you're asking for in terms of traffic calming. So the 22 comes from the ability for a plow to pass oncoming cars or a parked car. And that's even with the car kind of moving to the side.
Who produced these visuals, these diagrams?
These are from our consultant, GPI.
Why are the cars 8-9 feet wide?
And the scale, the visual there may not be quite right.
It's wild in Sweden.
I mean, SUVs are getting bigger.
They're about 6 feet, 6.5 feet now, which is still, that's about half the size of that lane.
I mean, maybe it's, the width isn't right, but the height is probably not, is probably.
Yes.
I mean, SUVs are huge.
Taller than the people, yeah, that's not right now.
This feel a little outdated. The miles.
So if we're thinking about the lane width and, you know, what it's actually like to drive on the thing.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
make that change.
Okay, so hello. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So if it needs to be 11-foot lanes, then why does it say that it can be less less wide in the street design standards? I'm just wondering.
In the zoning code?
Yeah.
Well, some of it comes from the type of street. I mean, I think we know for the volumes and the percent trucks on Flatbush and Foxhall, these are not like a neighborhood street. It's just serving 20 cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have a collector. These are a collector.
Yeah, like I say, they're more like a thoroughfare or collector.
Yeah.
And you do get trucks on that,
Yeah.
in that area, and the width would be a good thing, because they got to, I used to live over in that, near that neighborhood, and you want to have some maneuverability. So if the lanes are too narrow, you don't have it, and that causes more of a pedestrian challenge than not having it.
Well, it's definitely one of the complicating factors, because you are connecting, two major streets
Yes, you
in
are.
Kingston, but it's also a residential neighborhood, so you have these conflicts are gonna arise.
So I was pulling this up while you were talking, Chad, so forgive me if I'm misunderstanding. Are you saying that it sort of depends on the category
Right.
of road? Some roads need to be wider.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I did not really have a lot of input into these, and these have not been implemented anywhere yet. These sort of target greenfield new development, whereas we have a retrofit project.
Right.
And
So these don't apply, even though you're basically working with a clean slate on a street.
well, it's not a totally clean slate. I mean, we're, elsewhere in this document, I think you'll see where, the right of way width is limiting. So what is it so in that center category of collector C4,
Yeah.
it probably does it have a right of way width shown, or is that graphically? So, we're limited to 46 to 50 feet in this. But if there's
You've got an existing infrastructure in which you're trying to back into to make it work.
this, yeah.
And there's certain things that are just aren't gonna work, because you don't have the room to do it.
I'm looking for I'm not as familiar with this document. I mean, this is guidance, these are sort of mandatory when doing new development and should be considered when
Just passed.
doing retrofit.
Yeah.
I was looking for there's a little graphic.
Are you talking about
We did
the
the
streetscape?
entire season.
Yeah.
That's further.
For like 60 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, so wide, narrow, so dimension. A lot of these contemplate of having a wider right of way. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, 85, 65, whatever.
Yeah, so we have 46 and 50 feet on most of this project, which,
Total right of way?
yeah,
Gotcha. So if it's a blank canvas, to go back to your analogy, you have a narrower canvas.
and I would say, yeah, I mean, if you want to say, okay, we're similar to narrow right of way 50 foot, but again, there was some tension about adopting these, among city staff. It was not maybe as vetted as it should have been, but.
Does that mean future projects will have the same issue?
Tensions, yeah,
But especially if it's gonna be on a street that's similar to this, I mean, having been on the task force or whatever and listening to this, and this is going back years now, but there just isn't a lot of room.
right.
And even though, it's a blank canvas, there are a lot of limitations as to what it is you really can do.
There are, I mean, like I said elsewhere in the letter, we're not going to be doing large scale right of way acquisitions from people's.
That was.
Aren't there even some still with?
There are already about 12 to 14 that we have to do. It's mainly like corner clips.
Yeah,
But to take all of somebody's front yard.
there was a pushback on that during the task force meetings. There was a huge pushback on that.
Well, that's right, you were.
I was on the task force. So that's why I'm saying some of this, retrofitting this into what was there, it's gonna be difficult and it's not gonna be perfect.
I was trying to brainstorm, in the future, could the city get narrower plow blades? Is that a possibility?
No.
I'm throwing it out.
I know.
We asked the same kind of question. I mean, yeah, it's like, it's come back as a no on that. People's
Let's put it like this, you could,
It would
But
take
they
longer to
won't.
plow, right?
yeah, but they
That's,
won't.
that's the.
There could be some kind of tandem plowing where they have, but it's still, it's not efficient. And they're not gonna do it.
Wait,
I know-
sorry, I didn't, oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I didn't catch why can't they get smaller plows? I didn't catch that, sorry.
Operationally, like, you need to carry a certain when the plow leaves the depot, they're not going to do just one street. They need to be able to do all the streets they come across. So they kind of carry, the wider plow with the wing for that.
And if I get a little bit of context, I know that I'm one of the speaking editor here, and I don't know all the information. But my understanding is that DPW always struggles with getting people to work overtime to plow. So there's a capacity issue as well. So I'm guessing that a larger plow means that it can be done very efficiently. And if you had smaller plows, you probably need more staff, and that means more overtime.
Yes.
If that's a bigger budget.
Yes, and unless you have. When I worked in New Haven, we had what we called small routes and we had large routes. And we did have smaller trucks that had smaller plows. But we also were able to tap into, at the time, when we're talking back years ago, a larger portion of the staff. And I did have an overtime budget that made it kind of work. But you run out of money fast if you have to do it too long. And from what I understand from Kingston Public Works, there's not the capacity. And to my knowledge, the plowing system hasn't been designed that way, so no, you're not gonna get it.
There's all these different factors involved in it, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's other things that are being, that John and DPW are considering.
Yep.
We often don't think about.
So, yeah, I mean, look at, okay, we can target the green space. Well, our fund, 4 million of our funding now relies on having that green space for stormwater, so.
Of those biostalls specifically?
Yeah.
So you have to include the green space.
And they're gonna be going where?
One thing that I want to add is like we're designing the safety of the streets based on plowing, and like I think like last year like there was barely any snow, and I know this is variable, but it's like even at a winter with a lot of snow, there is like 10 years of 10 days of the year, like right, like that to me it's I don't know. I think we could do a little bit better, and if it's a matter of like finding more budget or anything, like I don't know. I think there is room for improvement there.
It does feel like we're hamstrung by plowing. It's the same thing with why we could never do speed bumps. It's just like, how many?
Well, unfortunately, as a former public works director, you are hamstrung by plowing. I mean, it's the reality of the situation. And you're hamstrung by staffing and money. I mean, and you want to do the best job you can for your population and your citizenry, and believe me, if you had unlimited staff or resources, you probably would say, sure, that's not a problem. I can get all the little trucks or do all the hand shoveling or whatever, but you don't. So if you're trying to do this and do it efficiently, actually as a public works director, you kind of pray for no snow because, it helps you, but on a bad snow year, you don't have the money. And if you can't encourage people with overtime and you can only do that to a certain point, you run into a problem. I mean, I understand the operational end because I had to live it.
And we get pushed, I mean, DPW, you know, this design you see represents already a compromise in us pushing on DPW. They'd rather have a 12 or 14-foot lane here, I can tell you. That would make their life easier. And I believe also, you know, we have NISDOT funding. I think their standard here would be a 12, and we can justify an 11 with some persuasion. But it's not that ink's not dry yet either, you know. They could push us back towards 12.
This is New York State DOT Region 8.
Well, it's just
Their highway design paper. Yeah.
What's the highway accessibility?
Yeah, all right, so then,
Oh, can I just say, I'm sorry, I wanted to say something else. So what if we, what if there was some kind of, I don't know, like a task force or something to try to problem solve this and try to figure out like what would it actually take to be able to have Public Works accommodate these improvements that we want to do. I mean, is that a possibility? Could we, I mean, you know, I think I think it kind of comes down to like we have to change if we're going to meet our climate goals, we're going to meet all these goals we have, we kind of have to change how we do things. So you know, from even the way we've done things for many decades. So I guess my question is, yeah, like, is it possible? Could we have some kind of, or maybe we could write a letter, we could write some kind of proposal. I don't know. I have no idea what that would really look like, but I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to take more money and maybe some kind of incentive for DPW or something.
How many miles of street are there in Kingston that would actually fall under what's being proposed for Foxhall? Do you know?
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly.
Okay, if you were to create this kind of special routing that you're talking about, you actually have to know how many miles you're looking at. If you're trying to create something just for that one street,
Yeah.
I would say no. Okay, but if you're looking at more miles of street, that would qualify
Yeah.
for the special creation of smaller plows, different whatever.
Right.
Then you might have an argument. I don't know, I don't know, but I'm just saying, that to me, as a former director, would be the justification. If I could justify that I have enough miles of street to make this a dedicated operation, then great. But if we're only talking about this street, from a purely fiscal operational point of view, I push back really hard. That's all I'm saying. Because it doesn't make any sense to me unless somebody gave me money.
That goes back to your large routes, small routes.
Exactly. We had a city that required it in many ways, so we were able to do it.
Yeah.
It cost more, but there was a need. You can see the need. If you don't have enough streets.
The closest analogy I think that we currently have is certain streets uptown especially are snow removal.
Okay.
Meaning you gotta scoop it up, put it in.
And haul it out.
haul it
Right,
away. There's
right.
no snow storage.
That's right.
Right, so we avoid, and we hear, you know, endless, you know, it's a lot of labor.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
So we're not creating any more of those. But I think DPW, when you say, okay, do more in a less space, that's what they hear is, okay, just harder and harder. I think too, with a long, you know, with Flatbush and Foxhall, you gotta plow it while there's traffic. Like you can't, you know, there's no way to say, okay, everybody get off the street for 2 hours. It's not gonna happen, so.
I feel like I have to say, I know there are times that there's a snowstorm and people are so mad when their street is not plowed as soon as possible.
I know.
I know you know. I feel like I have to say, like,
Yeah.
The amount of people
I know.
it feels irrational to me,
Mm-hmm.
but that is part of what's happening, is that the squeaky wheels are definite complaining that their streets are not plowed. So we just have to say that.
Yeah, no, all I'm saying is maybe there could be a reconfiguration, but it really would have to be how much needed to be changed, because if you're right, in the uptown area, if you have to do a scoop and dump and you gotta put it in the truck and you gotta haul it someplace and you gotta dump it and then you gotta come back, they certainly don't wanna do that on a Foxhall type street. That's not gonna happen. So if you have a lot of streets that are gonna be ending up like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 miles of street like that, maybe it might be worth reconfiguring the route, but from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I can say, the city does have a system of snow emergency routes, and both of these streets, Flatbush and Foxhall, are on that list.
So you can't park on the street
Correct.
while it's snowing, which does give them the opportunity, even with a bigger plow, to go through it quickly, reasonably quickly, and be in and out. And that
Yeah,
may be
well,
the solution.
There is, some on-street parking as part of this project, but there's large lengths with none.
That could be the compromise. As long as it remains a snow arterial,
Mhm.
then you've got no cars on it. Or at least for as much as you can, and that would allow them, it wouldn't matter what size plow you had, you could go in and just get in and out as quickly as you could. And maybe the smaller areas would have to have a little more attention.
So whether or not this is applicable to this stretch at Foxhall sections A and C in particular, is it a thing that can be considered to paint like a 1 or 2 foot margin?
Yes. Paint we can do. Some of it we may have to do after the project because NISDOT will not let us stripe it at 10. But we can do it a year later.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned that in section B, right? Section B could be done that way.
All right, well, the third item was a signage for no right on red, which I think you said you could
Which would be
consider.
considered a
Yeah.
little later. We're just not quite to that level of final design yet.
Now we're to the bike lanes, lack of bike lanes.
Yeah, this really comes down to the right of way acquisition.
Now, specifically with section B, I know that you have mentioned the recommendations for a 3-foot buffer. Is that a recommendation or a requirement? Just what I was wondering on that one. Like, for example, if it's just talking about section B, the bike lane isn't feasible on the stretch, but if we're just talking about section B, if the lanes were to be reduced just on that section to, or even without reduction, say it's 11 feet and then the 2 shoulders are put on one side, it's 8 feet, cycle track like Broadway.
Yeah.
Without that buffer, is that impossible or just not recommended?
So this section, but
Yeah,
just
so-
designate those as bike lanes?
Yeah, so say you have the same width and everything. If the 2 shoulders were to be placed on the one side, so you have an 8-foot area on the, I would recommend the west side where the Dollar General is. If those were combined, obviously it's not maybe ideal, but
Yeah.
when people are biking on the shoulders, there's still not really 3 feet between them and those cars. It is a tricky situation. If they were to be combined on one side, would that still be infeasible?
Okay, yeah, because now you've created a contraflow bike lane like exists on Broadway, which Broadway is protected bike lanes protected by parked cars. Right, so,
The protection doesn't have to do with width, right? The protection doesn't make it in.
right, so Broadway, just big picture, so you have an 8-foot bike lane, which itself is already a deviation from what should be 10. Then there's a 2-foot buffer, then there's 8 feet for parked cars. Trying to do that here, so I sketched it out, it would need about 62 or 64 feet of right of way, we have 50. So that becomes a large scale right of way acquisition if you wanted, quote, protected by parked cars.
What if it was not protected?
Yeah, that was the hypothetical. If it were, is that a recommendation or a requirement?
I don't know without looking in, probably in the highway design manual, I might get into this, but we've got, I mean, for a counterflow bike lane, in my view, really should be protected by either fixed barrier, which the snow is gonna make it a no-go, or parked cars.
Is that because the bicycle's going against the traffic?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Just
It's too vulnerable.
Right.
Gotcha. Makes sense, because cars
So-
aren't looking, it's sort of like what we were talking about with bicycle safety.
I mean-
Cars aren't looking for the bicycle going in that direction.
Yeah.
That's the real danger,
I'm
right?
trying to remember the geometry we used on Hurley Avenue. So Hurley Avenue was the first bike, of course, they're not counterflow. They're like this but I want to say those are at least 6 feet and that the travel lanes are like 12. So there's a lot more space out there on Hurley Ave.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the rest, let's see, we had 4-foot shoulders on section B. That's kind
I
of
mean, it's just a matter of, 10 plus 5 or 4 plus 11.
wide turning radii.
Yeah. So that it might be worth, do I have public friendly traffic on East Kingston for that intersection? I mean, I will say, it's not really in your letter, but the,
Your street.
we like the, here.
Thinking.
I'll try to get to that intersection. Yes.
Oh, there it is.
Super good with.
Yeah, and this is the surface, which is kind of. I could do the screen actually.
Touch.
Sometimes it's just moving slow, because
Okay,
we're
yeah.
also sharing your screen.
Okay. So there's. Yeah. So this is the current 5-way intersection that we propose to reduce to 4 by dead ending Elmendorf Street. And yeah, it's at a, a non-standard geometry with the skew angles there. And so those radius, and you can see too, a bump out.
Yeah.
That truck movement uses every bit of that, and you can see this stop bars had to be pulled back. I think this stop bar currently is even further back. Yeah, we didn't, this has already kind of been optimized as much as we can.
Is there a light going there?
Yeah, this is signalized, yeah.
This is where the,
Right, the Sunoco, the Citgo,
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, this is the doggy place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it is a good candidate. All of these, I think, I don't know if all of them are currently no right on red because of the non-standard. I think 3 out of the 4 definitely are. Where the stop bars are pulled so far back, it would make, right on red doesn't make any sense here. So I think that was another one of your comments.
with the change in the intersection and the train, is that gonna cause more backup? Going back towards Albany Avenue?
Cause more?
Cause it gets pretty jammed sometimes.
Well, and it's a function of, yes,
The train.
when the trains come and how
Okay.
long they are.
Okay.
We haven't, it wasn't really identified as a major problem here. As terms of backing into the intersection, I don't know how frequently you see that.
Well, when I lived over there, it seemed to be pretty,
Really?
I lived on Tejan.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and so I can tell you that, yeah, it could back up
And block Tejan,
pretty bad.
yeah, okay.
And I was, and yes, if you take it from 5 to 4, I understand it's safer, but I'm also thinking about the traffic that's gonna back up on some of those other streets because it just does, but,
Yeah.
it may not be able to be helped, but there are times when it is pretty bad.
Yeah, I do know for Tejan, there's a, do not block intersection, but I'm sure
They
people
do.
block the intersection, yeah.
Yeah. And there's no cut through, so they get very frustrated because Tejan dead end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was the other, I think you had asked about, accommodating bike ped through the new green space here once we close off Cornell. Yeah, we absolutely want to do that. I think, there's no reason not to do that. That makes a lot of sense.
That's great. All right, I think that was everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this remains relatively early in the design, but we are narrowing in on the final design. We're probably 2 years from construction. It's just how long these things take, because we have to acquire the right of way. It takes about a year and a half.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.
Of course.
Yeah, great. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
But
That would
yes,
be,
it has.
yeah.
let's get started.
Yeah, important.
I know.
Well,
We've
so
been talking about this since I've been on CSAC.
Broadway was roughly a 10-year project, 10, 12-year project. This one's not going to be too different, unfortunately.
So it takes a long time.
All right, well, the next item, this is
We
the,
let John go.
oh, yeah, of course, yeah, thanks.
Is there anything else you want to?
Yeah, I want to see what was it about Bluestone Report?
This is that the city's determining whether or not to allow a development out
Oh,
there.
right, yeah.
Like, I would say that it's a slightly different way.
Okay,
My understanding is that the development is in front of the planning board for
Okay.
approval, and the planning board, if I may now jump a little bit ahead and say, the planning board has reached out to the Complete Streets Advisory Council to weigh in on if the planning board should be the designator for seeker. My understanding of what that means is that they will be conducting the environmental review for the development. And they've just asked you, are you okay with them being the leader of seeker or not?
And SEEKR stands for the Environmental Review.
Seeker stands,
State Environmental Quality Review Act.
Okay.
which I think is a very typical process that happens when there's
Yeah.
development of any kind, it's a seeker process. I think this is the first time Complete Streets is being asked to weigh in on that seeker
I
designation.
was used to a different acronym, it was CEQA, and I was just want to make sure it's the same thing.
I think I'm getting it right.
No, different state,
Yeah.
different state.
Maybe it
No,
was-
California, it was CEQA, it was CEQA, and I was just wanting to make sure it was the same thing.
So I can look, I don't have it ready on my laptop, but Claudette and I were talking in the drive over. I looked at the planning board development of the plan. I looked really kind of cool to me. There's a pedestrian walkway from the development to Lucas Ave, which I think is kind of cool.
yeah, the one thing that was brought up in our emails was just that Lucas Ave doesn't always have pedestrian connections itself, so I guess it's just determining, is it connecting to a part of Lucas Ave that actually does?
Well, and my thing is whether Lucas does have it now or not, the goal is that Lucas should have it.
Right.
And that if we're doing any kind of new development, it should always have pedestrian access, sidewalks or whatever that should be there. Right now, they may be sidewalks to nowhere, which I'm quite familiar with in Kingston. But eventually there will be sidewalks to somewhere. So, if you don't require them at the beginning of the development, you're just not gonna get them in. So that's my whole thing. They should never go through the planning committee without sidewalk. And even for the city, having a designated right of way is important. So, we have time to continue to make sure that we put it in place.
So are you gonna try to bring up the plan? I mean, I have a question for the council and your feelings on like very low volume neighborhood streets that in this, I think this development has, I want to say 12 to 15 units on a dead end cul-de-sac. Should that street itself have sidewalks?
Is it a city accepted street?
They are asking that it should be, yes.
Then I say it should be. If it's a city accepted street, I think they should all have
Okay.
sidewalks.
And that's the part of Kingston that you should be able to walk to,
Well, some of
Park
the,
or,
right. Well,
Yeah.
back to the zoning code though, I mean, the zoning code in some of these situations envisions, I think what's called a Wunderf.
Right,
Which is Wunderf.
it's this Dutch
It's
idea.
it's a very low speed, low volume road
Uh-huh.
where basically everybody walks their bikes down the center of the street because there's maybe 50 cars a day or less.
I mean, that's an acceptable idea, I think as well, and I think we, a number of us have talked about these sort of ideas being implemented, for instance, the new development down in the Rondout, these sorts of places.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to make sure that for pedestrians and people with low vision and baby carriages and whatever, have a safe and accessible
Right.
way to go. And I also feel very strongly that the city should have designated areas of right of way so that they're not necessarily digging up your lawn like they are trying to put in the fiber where I am. So.
Where I am too.
And you can't get anybody to answer any questions, so I mean, I'm, from a professional point of view, I am like, well, where's the designated right of way? And to ensure that, you need a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Now, if you're telling me that in this particular area, you can kind of guarantee that without a sidewalk, okay, but I'm skeptical.
I think
Yeah.
I'm there with you, John,
Yep.
on that design. The only thing that I would say is like in the definition of that project, they were saying that they wanted to do like a walkable neighborhood or something like that. So if that's their goal, they should definitely be sidewalks.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, I didn't see that picture. Okay. So it sounds like each house is going to have its own driveway and then it's going to be a cul-de-sac. So it's going to be a two-way street. So, I mean, I think Warnoffs, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like Warnoffs are usually one ways or maybe a Yield Street or something, but it sounds like the cars are probably going to be parked off street maybe, and I'm not sure about that. So
Yeah, I think the part of Lucas Ave where there are no sidewalks.
Yeah, great. Yeah, right, there's sidewalks on Lucas Ave there.
And Bluestone Court itself has no sidewalks.
Oh, this road.
Yeah.
Right down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But it does look like, so Claudette was asking me in the car, in front of each house, to me, it looks like there is a sidewalk
Yes.
that leads to a pedestrian-only path that takes you out to Lucas. But it does not look like there are sidewalks,
Out to.
what I was calling the driveway in the car, Claudette. There's not sidewalks on the
Okay.
driveway to Flagstone.
And when you say a pedestrian-only path, how
Yes.
smooth is that? I mean, is it asphalt? Who maintains it?
It says concrete, it says 5 feet wide concrete sidewalk.
Okay, all right, okay.
So it looks like it's following the sidewalk.
I mean, I would like to see sidewalks along that driveway also, so people can also walk out to Bluestone Court or whatever that is.
But yeah, I agree.
Are these single family homes?
Yeah. Yeah, I was at a meeting about this project a week or two ago. I think they're making some revisions, but yeah, I think it would be great for this council to write a letter, you know, with comments on this.
Is that what, I mean, are we at a point where?
You're not being asked to give feedback
Right.
on this project, to
Right.
be clear, but you could send the planning board, right? I think that's the agency that you would be giving your recommendation to.
Yeah, and I think my thought about writing the letter was just to, I don't think it's not regarding really the seeker thing, but it's regarding just kind of like, you know, kind of reminding them that we're part of the process for approving new streets in Kingston according to the code. So, yeah.
I would start by the letter by thanking them for including you in the seeker.
Yeah.
Do that line first,
Yeah.
then move on with them.
Yes, definitely.
I just sent Emily a link. There's an article in the Freeman, Daily Freeman about 3 weeks ago about this whole project. Might be interesting to read.
So, I recommend you guys decide if you want to reply to the seeker letter or not. And it feels like two different topics.
Mhm.
One, do you want to reply to the seeker letter? If you don't, then they are automatically designated as the lead agency, which maybe you're fine with. And then two, if you wanted to submit, send them any other.
If it wasn't the planning department, who would be the lead agency?
It's a great question, I do not know.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I guess in a way, I'm kind of, why do we're giving approval to the default group, or?
This is a very bureaucratic process, the seeker, is sort of my understanding of it.
Mhm.
I think in other projects, sometimes there are other agencies, like if the brickyard glamping thing, maybe a different agency would do the seeker process if it's a really large development. Am I making this part up? What do you think?
So with a unlisted action, which is probably this might be type 1 action, but
Yeah.
the agency, in this case, planning board, declares intent to be the lead agency, and then
Okay.
other agencies have 20 days in which to either,
Agree.
really just to object if they object, but
In this
otherwise
case,
it'll
who
be a
would
planning
object?
board, yeah.
Would it be your department who would object?
No. No, but let's say this thing was on the middle of a coastal wetland,
Okay.
then maybe the State Department of State would say, no, this is such a level that, yeah.
And then they would say maybe they should be the.
Right,
lead
yeah,
agency?
maybe, yeah.
So I would recommend that we don't reply to the seeker and let's let that process go, but that we write a letter explaining our concerns and thoughts around the project.
Well, could it be just one and the same letter that says, we agree that you should be that, but we also want to make sure that you take in consideration the following other issues here?
Well,
Sure, I think replying to the process is us filling out this form,
yeah,
right?
the secret thing is this very specific form.
Which we don't have to do.
You don't have to do.
Okay, all right,
I just
okay.
think it's really nice that they offered it to you.
So
That's up to you
we
guys.
should,
All right, well,
okay, I guess the thing is, if we want to be taken seriously and we've struggled, then we should be complimentary back to them for
Okay.
considering us. I think that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, it just.
I think that's a good idea too, because we don't want them to think we're ignoring it. Just reply back and say we'd like to wait and hold off until later or something.
Right.
Oh, no.
No,
no.
no, we have, I think from everything that I know of, having been on this committee, or whatever we're called at this point, we've struggled to get them to know that we're here and that our opinions should be taken seriously. So we need to say thank you and we agree that for this project, you should be. I think that's.
All right, and we can also fill out this form and
What,
turn it to them formally.
reply to them formally with the form, yes, I agree. I think that's what I would recommend. Do we need to vote on it, or can we just do it?
That's a good question. I guess we might as well vote since we all seem to agree. Does those in favor of proceeding as Claudette just explained, which would be returning the form, asking that the planning board moves forward as the organization or the group that's leading the effort, and then we'll also then draft a letter. We'll thank them for including us, but then also list all of our concerns. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, great, thanks. Well, I can draft the letter and work on that form and send it around for everyone to take a look at.
When does the form have to be in?
It was 30 days so it looked like it was the end of the month, so it looks like you have about a week.
Okay. Yes, no problem. And then the next letter, our next item was, Ella had suggested that we write a letter to the mayor and possibly also the common council, thanking them for their efforts at reducing the city's speed limit, which I thought was a really nice idea. I think, should we vote on that also? Is that unnecessary?
Just do it. It sounds like a great idea.
All right, great. Ella, do you want to draft that? I'm happy to also.
Yes, I can draft it. And then I'll make it so we can all comment on it or make revisions and suggestions.
Great, thank you. All right, then the speed camera funds plan. I think, was that more of a question you had about the speed camera funds? So I don't think we really got any answers for that, did we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess my question, I don't know if anyone or how we would find out about this, but I'm just wondering if really my question is if the speed camera funds are going into the general fund, and if so, I recommend that the speed camera funds be set aside for specific purposes, but I don't know if we know the plan for that.
My understanding is the city will probably contract with a vendor who will come in, install the cameras, monitor the cameras, send the fines, collect the fines, and the city gets a percentage.
That's usually the way it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's done in Albany.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then my question is like, so the money that we do get, I'm probably not all of it, or we're not going to get a lot of it, but the money that we do get, is there any plan for that yet, or?
It's gonna be a lot, I feel like. I should take that.
Not gonna be that much.
I think the city
By the
gets
time we get what
10 or
back.
20%.
Yeah.
What is the other money?
So
Some millionaire somewhere.
You know, the company that has it, the monitoring, all of that.
Now I understand.
And now I'm sure that whatever proceeds goes straight to the general fund, so,
Yeah.
you know.
What-
That's what they've done in every city I've worked in. We never saw it.
I don't know the answer, Ella, I don't know.
I think it's not likely that we'll see any money in 2025.
okay, well, I guess I would just say maybe we could write a letter recommend, hey, I just, since we're talking about DPW, what if we recommended that some of that money go towards DPW, helping them clear the snow and maybe getting a new smaller
Plow.
yeah. Or
It's worth a try.
Oh, sorry.
They can flag it for, but
Yeah, that guy already left, if you're
So
looking
you
for
think
his.
you said building?
buildings,
I'm not sure where he went.
yeah, he was looking for buildings.
All right, well, the next item, Gustavo, was around beg buttons.
Yeah, there is a couple things there, but I want to address a couple like very important first now. One is that the bike box in Elmendorf and Broadway. Last time we like in the email thread we said that it's not 100% visible. I think like that one should get priority. Also, the back button to cross Liberty Street has the names of the streets wrong. So when you get the light to cross Broadway, it says that you can cross Liberty Street. And when you get the light to cross Liberty Street, it says you can cross Broadway, which is just terrible. I think like we should address that one too, as soon as possible. And yeah, like the rest, I think like everything is in the email. Like if I understand that we got a grant from Lyserda to minimize like pollution, and the solution for that is to minimize the time that cars are waiting on Broadway. But I think allowing or like making easier for pedestrians to cross the street will fix or like reduce pollution even more than that. And yeah, like sometimes like we don't give any priority to pedestrians and people just still go for it, which is dangerous. I think to put it, we can meet in person if it might be easier to explain, but giving the pedestrian the light basically when bikes have the right to cross should be, to me, like the best way to explain it.
Okay, I've made some notes here about this.
All right, great. So we are 5 minutes over, so as quickly, the last item was just around the idea of op-eds and going to the press for members of CSAC to just sort of keep in mind. As Brian Slack mentioned, this is open to the public and we are streaming on YouTube. Everything we do here is public as it is. So I don't feel like there's any need to necessarily bring our concerns directly to the press. I think, like I mentioned in emails to everybody, obviously we're on this, for CSAC, but I just addressed concerns that I didn't want to undercut our support amongst city staff, especially. We have the mayor's ear, we have the common council's ear. We can address them directly through letters. The mayor has come to this meeting. Obviously now we have John here, who's quite a regular presence, which is a great development. So I just don't want people on complete streets to feel that they need to sort of step out of outside the regular machinations of this organization and bring their concerns directly to other media, whatever it might be. And then in terms of just op-eds, I know there's been thoughts about writing op-eds around certain other concerns that we discussed here, and I feel like that sort of falls within the same sort of idea that we can just remembering that we are sort of here to advise the mayor and the common council and to not really sort of step too far outside that. I feel like it could do more harm than good in what we're trying to accomplish. That's really all I want to say. Does anyone have anything I'd like to say around that subject? Okay, well, on that note, this is also a reminder that in 25 minutes, there's a UCAT route optimization meeting, which I think some members of Complete Streets are going to be attending, and I believe Brian Slack will be there also. So this is a great chance to give. I'm not sure if they're still accepting feedback, or is this meeting to just sort of hear the plan at this point? I'm not quite sure. I know Ella's kind of up on this topic. But, either way, it's at the Restorative Justice Center, right? Just on the street? Okay,
Well, it's top of Broadway.
okay, right.
I don't know I don't know how much feedback they're asking for. I think they're asking for feedback.
Okay, so they're still looking for feedback. Great.
This is kind of good, but does anyone know, so the speed limit on Broadway itself, is that 25 or is Broadway 30 still?
25.
It is 25? Okay. I don't know if this brought to anyone's attention, but I was coming through the traffic circle on a bike the other day, and I noticed that if you turn left from the traffic, like if you're coming on, what is it, it's 5 something, it's.
587.
Okay, thank you. If you're coming off of there, if you turn to the right and you go to Albany Avenue, there is a 25 mile per hour speed limit sign, but if you actually take a left, you kind of miss it, and I don't know if it's ever obvious again on Broadway that it's 25.
Okay, on Albany?
Yeah, like if you're coming either from Albany or from 587, you
Okay.
come off, when you start going towards Albany, like towards Academy Green, there's a 25 sign, but if you take the left to the circle, I don't think you ever see it. And I
Okay,
don't think there's another one on Broadway, I was just wondering.
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
I was impressed by how quickly all the signs seemed to
Yeah.
have changed. I thought it was gonna take ages. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, but, yeah, that's pretty good. All right, well, with all that, would anyone like to make a motion to
I
adjourn?
move we adjourn.
A second that? All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca.